Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury. Please silence your phones if you haven't already done so. My name is Sally Mandler. I've been a member here for almost 5 years. I knew soon after moving to Connecticut from Minnesota and only knowing 2 people in the state, and they live on the other side of the state, that I would need a community and connections. I am grateful to have found my people here and am loving being a part of this community. Having served on the membership team, joining Women on Our Own, to being part of Judy Lacker's Dorothy Day meal serving team, and volunteering with Comida back in the day. I'm also involved in social action activities, and I've even taught 2 sessions, team taught 2 sessions of religious education. I currently serve on the Sunday services team, and as a result, in addition to being today's service coordinator, I'm also your welcomer. It's a lot, but all of it is worthwhile, nourishing to me and I hope to others. The Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury has been gathering together for 200 years, and as we work to build a more just world, we respectfully acknowledge that our physical building rests on the traditional land of the Paugussett people. I'm so glad that you are able to join us this morning because you're an essential part of our celebration today. Whether this is your first or 1,000th time, you're with us in our midst, either in person or online. We are stronger because you are here. If you're new to our community and joining us online, we invite you to introduce yourself and where you are connecting from in the chat as you are comfortable. At the conclusion of today's service, you will have the opportunity to participate in breakout groups for individual connections and deeper check-ins. If you're new and here in person, please fill out a visitor card at the table before you exit. And consider staying for a few minutes for conversation. We are one people of many beliefs, many origins, sexualities, and genders. We are all growing, all learning, all loved. Just as you are welcome here. Now we have a few announcements. Gail, if you would come on.
Good morning, I'm Gail Alexander. October 16th, we are going to be having our 200th anniversary celebration service and brunch afterwards. The Reverend Lauren Smith, who is the Director of Stewardship and Development of the UUA, will be here with us to deliver the message. Also, at the brunch, we're going to have a little trivia contest. So start putting together your tables and decide who your teammates are going to be. And to help you out, I'm sure you've noticed in the comment since the beginning of the year, Doug Parkhurst has been writing some excellent historical articles. And also for sale in the lobby, you can pick them up after service, we have our history book with a bonus cookbook and a 200th anniversary bumper sticker. Which we hope you will display proudly, because not only is that great for our anniversary, but it also ups our profile in the community. People know that we're around. So thanks.
Thank you, Gail. Now, just a couple more short announcements. Next Sunday, October 2nd, Reverend Kathleen and Sierra Marie will lead our service. It's a multi-generational one about gratitude for all of Earth's creatures that connect with us in the independent web of life. Also, next Sunday is our first Music on the Ridge. It begins at 4 o'clock, and the performers are Pete and Maura Kennedy. Come experience music of the people. Again, welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury.
Good morning. That was pretty good for a small group. I hope you were doing that online, so we're just going to try it again. Good morning. Good morning. Awesome. That's excellent. I do want to add to the announcement about music next Sunday. Is anybody planning on coming to Music at the Ridge? Okay. Some of you are already planning. Maybe now some of you are thinking about it. It will be a wonderful concert here in the afternoon. But there's something important that you need to know. Tickets must be purchased online. So there will not be tickets at the door. You need to, even if you're going to Zoom, which you can also do that. If you'd like to watch it from home, maybe get together with some other people, you can do that. But those tickets as well, in order to get the link, you need to go to musicattheridge.org. And it's very easy to then purchase your tickets for the concert. It is good to be together. It's good to have you joining us online. We knew that there would be a number of people with various outbreaks of COVID going on, and we want everybody to feel safe and comfortable. So I'm glad those of you who have decided to stay at home and join us online are here with us. Let's just give a quick wave to those online. We want you to know we miss you being here, but we are so glad that you are with us via Zoom. Let's just take a quick moment, just kind of look around you and just say hello to those who are near you. You might see some faces you haven't seen before or in a long time. Take a moment and greet one another. For those online, I hope that you will take a moment and type into the chat box your greetings to one another there as well. We welcome all who are here today. It's good for us to be together. So let's rise in body or spirit and let's sing together our hymn of welcome. And at home, you might want to rise too in body or spirit. And we know that you too will lift your voices as we sing together number 38. The words will be right up here on the screen, or you can check them out in the hymnal, number 38, Morning Has Broken.
Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning. Praise them in springing, fresh from the word. Sweet the rain's new fall, sunlit from heaven, like the first dew fall on the first grass. Praise for the sweetness of the wet garden, sprung in completeness where God's feet pass. Mine is the sunlight, mine is the morning, born of the one light Eden saw play. Praise elation, praise every morning, God's recreation of the new day.
Thank you. Please be seated. I invite our service coordinator, Sally, to come light the chalice and lead us in our words of affirmation.
And those of you at home, if you have a chalice or want to light a candle, please do that too. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and justice is its light. This is our covenant. I hope those of you at home who are lighting candles have better luck than I. And now for the children's affirmation.
Okay. It is good to be together in all the ways we are together. Let's say our children's affirmation. We are Unitarian Universalists. We are people with open minds, loving hearts, and helping hands. We care for the earth and each other. All right.
So we might just ask everyone who is Zooming in, just check your settings and make sure you are muted. We know we want to hear you, but this is probably not the best time to hear. So just make sure you're muted if you can. Thank you.
So every week we sing This Little Light of Mine at the end of the story. And here we are. We have two lights, this little light of mine. But you might have seen a TikTok video if you're a TikTok watcher that talks about how life is hard. What are some of the things that make life hard? Stress. Monetary issues. Medical issues. Poverty. Loneliness. Depression. Oppression. Both those things. Natural disasters. Lots of things make life hard. And we might find that sometimes we need a little help to get our light started again. Like that. So there's lots of ways that we can light each other's lights again, maybe offering each other a little kindness or grace, working for justice, being grateful for our own lives in such a way that it creates conditions that are better for everybody. There are definitely ways that we can do that, but sometimes we're the people with the light that's gone out, and sometimes we're the people with the light that's still lit. And one of the things we might think about is, what do we do when we're the person with the lit light? How is it that we share our flame? How is it that we intentionally help out when it's needed? Whoop. It works better the first time. Now, let's sing This Little Light of Mine. And if I have a kid who wants to come with me, we'll go outside. We'll go through the downstairs and get Doreen to come with us. And otherwise, that's fine too. We'll stay all together as a community. Thank you. Ooh.
Light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
I invite you to join me moving into a sacred time of sharing the milestones of our lives. It's not something that every congregation does, not even every Unitarian Universalist congregation. Sometimes you see it in other Christian congregations known as prayers of the people, just like the greeting is often called passing of the peace. But we know in this community just how important it is to be able to bring our whole selves into this building, into this sacred space, in order that we can be our whole selves and be accepted here. So for those of you online, I encourage you to take this time to center yourselves wherever you are watching from. And here too, let us take a moment. Consider first those milestones, those joys and sorrows, those concerns weighing on you, but that you might not share aloud. For whatever reason, you are holding it close, but yet you would share with this community that there is something you have brought with you today. So I'm going to invite you to come as we listen just to soft music in the background. Come to the chancel table. If you have a silent milestone, choose a stone from the table and drop it into the water. At home, perhaps you have something that you would, a stone or a bowl of water, something that you too would use to symbolize this piece of you that you've brought here today. Let us begin with the silent milestones together. I will light the single candle on our chancel table this morning in honor of the Jewish New Year and as a remembrance of all of those in our community and beyond who would celebrate this sacred holiday of Rosh Hashanah, of looking back in order to look forward. In this spirit of reflection, I invite you to join me staying seated and lifting our voices as we sing together our hymn of reflection. The words will be on the screen, and I encourage you to look at the screen for those words. Sing them from your heart. Comfort me. And let me just add that when we come to, there are several verses, and when we come to the verse that says, "Speak for me," what I'd like for you to think of is those who are voiceless, those who cry out for someone to speak for them. We sing for them as well today.
Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, Sing with me, oh my soul. Speak for me. Speak for me. Speak for me, oh my soul. Speak for me. Speak for me. Speak for me, oh my soul. Dance with me. Dance with me. Dance with me, oh my soul. Dance with me. Dance with me. Dance with me, oh my soul. Comfort me. Comfort me. Comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me. Comfort me. Comfort me, oh my soul.
This morning's reading comes from one of my favorite authors, Anne Lamott. And she wrote a book called Grace Eventually. This is from that book. We moved into our current home 6 years ago when Sam was 10. In the old house, our bedrooms had been very close, but in the new place, we were separated by 2 rooms and 2 short hallways. He started coming into my room in the middle of the night and curling up on my bed. I tried the obvious ways of helping him get his confidence back: a nightlight, bribes, Power Ranger sheets. Nothing worked. We finally came up with a solution. The first night, he put his sleeping bag and pillow right beside my bed, where our old dog, Sadie, could peer out at him tenderly. The second night, we moved the sleeping bag 3 feet away. The next night, he moved 3 more feet away. The short hallway in the living room took 3 nights to master. And then there were 4 nights in the living room as he crept closer to his own room with 4 3-foot scooches, 1 stall, and one night when he had to drag his sleeping bag back 3 feet. See you tomorrow, Mom. Love you, Mom. Doing okay out here, Mom. A few times he called for me to come and sit with him. My nearness lifted him. Sometimes grace works like water wings when you feel you are sinking. And then at last he spent his first night in his spooky new room, bravely, on the floor. And that's me, trying to make progress with life. Scooch, scooch, stall. Scooch, stall. Catastrophic reversal. Bog, bog, scooch. I wish grace was more like abracadabra kinds of things. Also, that delicate silver bells would ring just to announce Grace's arrival. But no, it's clog and slog and scooch on the floor, in silence, in the dark. Thus ends the reading.
It's now time for our congregational offering. If you're with us for the first time, your presence is your gift to us. Members and friends online, Please express your generosity by using the link or QR code found on the screen or in the chat. If you prefer, you may send a check to UUCD at 24 Clapper Ridge Road, Danbury, 06811. Thank you for doing your part to support and sustain this community we love.
It was a few months ago, I was sitting at a table having a delicious chef salad in the home of a congregant. And as we were eating, I was looking out these huge windows onto Candlewood Lake, and it was almost breathtaking. It was so beautiful. We were talking about possible sermon topics because, as some of you may know, member Lisa Horton had the winning bid at last year's auction to choose the sermon. Well, we talked about a lot of things that day. And it was so interesting. One of the topics that took so much of our conversation was the struggle with reconciling our personal privilege. And we talked about what that meant. Privilege wasn't just about one thing. It wasn't just about race. It wasn't just about economic circumstance. It was about all of it, all of the privileges that we have in our personal life. And how do we reconcile that with what's going on in the world, with what we see around us? And then the conversation expanded and we went into other topics, and we began to discuss how difficult it is to help those we love when they won't accept the help. I see some heads nodding. Or how difficult it is struggling to know how in the world do we help those that we love. And I left the lunch thinking, okay, I got this. I got this. It's going to be a good one. I just know it. And I sat with it for a couple of months. I sent an email to Lisa. Is this still what you're wanting a sermon on? Anything changed? Anything else come up for you? It was basically the same. So I began to think again, and I struggled. But I realized these are not unique concerns. These are not limited to Lisa Horton. These are nearly universal concerns to some degree for every single one of us. And no matter how I approached these struggles, these ideas, these thoughts, I kept coming back around to the same thing. And I tried to divert it. I tried to change it. But I kept coming back around to living a practice of grace and gratitude. And it just sounded too simplified. But it just kept coming back over and over. Living a practice of grace and gratitude. No platitudes, but an intentional practice of grace and gratitude. And isn't it interesting how we have to be intentional if we want to practice grace and gratitude? But stress and busyness and frustration, boy, that's second nature. No need to be intentional. That's just our natural reaction. We are pros at reacting to all the things that life throws at us. Now, although I know that word grace might sound like one of those haunting religious words, one of the words that has been used to separate people into categories, you know, the believers and the unbelievers, the good and the evil. It may seem like one of those words that's left over from an age of superstition and magical thinking, but I believe grace is a real human experience. I believe it's available to each and every one of us. We can't control it. We can't just conjure it up. We can only be open to it when it comes, and it comes. Our Universalist forebears, and let's remember in this 200th year of our existence, we were originally the Universalist Church of Danbury. We have strong Universalist roots. And our Universalist forebears were among the very first Christians to declare that grace and God's love was for everyone, not just the lucky elite, but for every last person. That's our religious inheritance. I'm proud of that. Of course, let's not forget that our Unitarian Universalism also has very strong humanist roots as well. And humanists might have a slightly different take on grace. They might use grace to describe everyday miracles, like a flash of beauty at just the right time. Like when you see a bright red cardinal hopping across the snow. Have you ever seen that? It's amazing. Or when a stranger arrives just in the nick of time. And Lamott says grace sometimes works like water wings when you feel you are sinking. Grace, simply put, is feeling accepted. It's having the deep and strong feeling that you are okay in this moment. You have a place in the universe, no matter how small that place may be, no matter what is happening. Grace is experiencing joy in being alive in the here and now. It's that being present I've talked about before, being present in the here and now, conscious of being alive and in relation to the larger interconnected web of life. Now, we can also describe grace by its attributes. The first characteristic of grace, I learned this as a Southern Baptist, is that it's unexpected. It's unexpected. We may yearn for it. Oh, can I just have a little grace here? We may yearn for it, but the truth is it's like a long lost friend who just one day shows up on our doorstep unannounced, because grace catches us unawares. And when grace moves into our life, it's usually at times when we're not exactly looking for it. Have you ever noticed that? But it just shows up. Now, that doesn't mean we're not paying attention, even though we might not be looking for grace. I'm sure you're familiar with that term, a grace period. Sometimes I knew that from credit cards. I get a little grace period. Or when I was struggling financially, oh, that grace period, whew, that was heaven. Sometimes in school, teachers would give a little grace period with the assignment. If we're not attentive, if we're not paying attention, the grace period can easily be missed. In her book, An Altar in the World, Barbara Brown Taylor tells a story of taking out the trash one evening, just about sunset. The bag was really heavy, and as she struggled to get it from her back door to the garage, she passed by her garden. Glancing through the gate, she noticed that the light was hitting the garden just so. She said she got, quote, the whole dose of loveliness at once. The sun setting, and it turned the scene absolutely golden. But she felt like she really had to dump out that trash first before she could really look at it. So when she went back a few moments later, the light had changed and the garden had returned to normal. Taylor had noticed the moment of grace, but she passed it by. So we need to not only pay attention and be open to the possibility of a grace-filled moment that just arrives on our doorstep, but we also have to put down the metaphorical trash when it happens. Grace is unexpected. It's also fleeting. Grace does not linger. Noticing grace requires us to be ready to set aside our everyday business. We've got to be ready to set aside the concerns, the monkey mind that's constantly going around. Set it aside. Be willing to be just a tiny bit late to that meeting. Be willing to not answer the ringing cell phone in your pocket. Because if we don't, we may catch a glimpse of grace, but we will miss the experience. Lamott also said, I do not understand the mystery of grace, only that it meets us where we are and does not leave us where it found us. See, grace is the experience of something beyond our ego. It's ego that brings these concerns and these struggles to the forefront where they cloud our vision for grace. But grace is beyond ego. It's somehow reaches in and touches our life in a way that enables us to live a bit more easily with what life throws at us. It enables us to respond more deeply to the pain and the suffering that life can bring. Grace is unexpected, grace is fleeting, but woo, grace can be powerful because grace can be transformational. Grace has the power to transform us. It doesn't show up when everything is great and in order. Typically, we have an experience of the opposite of grace before we experience grace. And I believe grace is like a connection. So the opposite is separation. We experience a disconnect. And that's when grace steps in. We can know a moment of grace by the effect it has on us if we are willing to experience it. If we are paying attention, if we can stop for just the brief moment, we will know grace by the effect it has on us. After grace is settled on our shoulder, even if it's just for a brief moment, we are usually not the same as we were before it landed. The very presence of grace, it pushes ego off the center stage, and something inside of us shifts. Even in the snow, when I saw the red cardinal, and I allowed myself to take 10 seconds to stop to take it in. I was not the same after that. There was a little shift that happened in me. Ego was off the center stage, and I was able to be transformed by that beauty. Grace allows us to look at the world and our place in it just a little bit differently at that moment. It opens us up to possibility. It grounds us. It reconnects us with our center. It shows us that what we see is not necessarily all that is. Grace lifts a veil. It parts a curtain. It offers us another view of reality, a new way of being. Now, granted, transformation is not always going to be dramatic. There are not going to be fireworks going off and, horns playing. An experience of grace may be this very small tremor that precedes a seismic shift. It can be a portent of things to come. So grace, whether it's in a child's smile, or a grandmother's laughter, or a morning bird song, or a care package of banana bread, it can give us courage. Courage to keep going. Courage to keep moving, to keep looking for solutions, to keep struggling despite being exhausted. And I know it can be exhausting when you are trying to help a loved one that will not accept it. It can be exhausting trying to think of ways in which you can be helpful. But it's grace that helps us keep struggling even though we are exhausted. It helps us to get out of bed. I don't think I will ever forget a very brief, seemingly insignificant moment of grace. It was in the grocery store 34 years ago, but I still remember. About 34 years ago, my daughter wasn't quite a year old. I wasn't quite 25 years old. It was in Ridgefield at Ancona's Market, for anyone that lives there. Well, my daughter was not having it. She was screaming. She was crying. She was out of control. I was tired. I was a working mom. I had little support, and I was exhausted. I needed to get groceries. So I strolled through the aisles. My kid is the one that you never want to have in the grocery store. She'd never done it before and never did it since. But she was screaming at the top of her lungs. She was crying. I could not figure out what was wrong. I couldn't just get in the car and go home because we needed food. I began to cry myself. She's screaming and crying, and I have tears just pouring down my face. And an older woman just approached me ever so gently from behind. She put her hand on my shoulder. I turned. For sure, this person was going to say, "Do you not know how to take care of your child? Would you please leave now?" She said, "You're okay." What? I'm not okay. What does that mean? She said, "You are okay. She is going to be okay. You are going to be okay." And she walked away. I stopped for just a few seconds to take in this moment. I'm okay. I'm going to be okay. It was a moment of grace that shifted in me. I stopped crying. My daughter did not. But I finished my shopping. And I left with those words in my head. You're okay. You're okay. I don't think I will ever forget that. In fact, it was just a few weeks ago. I saw a mom with two under the age of 2 in ShopRite. The kids are screaming. The kids are crying. Mom soothes them, goes on. They start screaming and crying. Mom soothes them, goes on all the way through the aisles. And you can see people. Where is that coming from? My experience with Grace popped back into my mind. I couldn't find where she was. And as I got into the parking lot and I'm loading my groceries into the car, she's right across from me. The kids still crying, not screaming now. I need to extend a little grace. So I just went over. I didn't put my hand on her. I just went over and said, you know what? You are okay. They are okay. I just want you to know that. And she just looked at me like a deer in the headlights. And it took her a breath, and she just said, I needed that. Grace, it's not just something we receive. It's something in our power to give to ourselves. We often need to give ourselves a little grace, and to others. You know, Daniel Goleman is the author of these two books, Emotional Intelligence and Social Intelligence. And in that he states that the brain is social, which we know, and we can actually catch each other's emotions like we catch a cold. Isn't that something? That's a lot better than catching COVID, that's for sure. We can catch each other's emotions the way we catch a cold. He speaks of relationships as pharmaceutical. He calls it, quote, a spiritual immune system. I love that. We have a special kind of neuron called a mirror neuron. And those mirror neurons help us reflect back the emotions that we receive from other people. We are wired for kindness. We are wired for compassion. We are wired for connection. Maybe, he asserts, we're wired for grace. Could we catch grace from someone? The words gratitude and grace, because I put those two together when I was considering Lisa's questions and struggles. Gratitude and grace, they share a common Latin origin, gratis, meaning pleasing or thankful. And when you are in a deep state of gratitude, you may feel the presence of grace. Consider how that prayer of thanks before meals many of us experienced was called grace. Brené Brown posits that gratitude is actually an emotion. And it's an emotion that reflects our deep appreciation for what we value. And if you remember, we talked recently about the difference between beliefs and values. Gratitude isn't an emotion that reflects our deep appreciation for our beliefs. It's appreciation for what we value, what brings meaning to our lives, what makes us feel connected to others. And there is grace in gratitude. Some have said gratitude is an act of grace, but I actually think that with a practice of gratitude, grace naturally bubbles up. It naturally makes appearances in our lives. I mean, we know that gratitude has been proven to reduce negative pathologies like depression and anxiety, even drug abuse, and it increases our satisfaction with life. But research has also shown that true gratitude, it's more than just appreciating someone's help. It's an orientation where we notice and appreciate beauty and positive things in our lives. And that is where a daily and explicit practice of gratitude, I believe, can lead to true grace. It's been said that there are two keys to cultivating and experiencing gratitude. One is recognizing all that we have, even when we don't have everything we want. And that is part of the step in reconciling our privilege. Are we expressing, are we cultivating gratitude, recognizing all that we have, even when we don't have everything we want? The second is recognizing all the things that benefit us. They don't come from us. They come from outside ourselves. They don't come from ego. They all arrive by grace. I read a story about a woman who woke up one morning and she looked in the mirror and she noticed she only had 3 hairs on her head. Well, she said, I think I'll braid my hair today. So she did, and she had a wonderful day. And the next day she woke up, looked in the mirror, saw that she only had 2 hairs on her head. She said, think I'll part my hair down the middle today. And so she did. She had a grand day. And the next day she woke up, she looked in the mirror and she noticed she only had 1 hair on her head. Well, she said, today I am going to wear my hair in a ponytail. And she did. She had a great day. The next day she woke up, she looked in the mirror and she noticed there was not a single hair on her head. Yes, she exclaimed, I don't have to fix my hair today. If we make a habit of looking for and paying attention to the beautiful and positive things in our lives, and it's not always easy, along the way, we will come to realize the source of the beauty, the source of the goodness lies outside our actions, outside our egos, outside our thoughts. And as a result, gratitude will help us connect to something that's so much bigger than just our individual selves. It helps us connect to community. It helps us connect to nature. For some, it helps connect to a higher power. I find grace at work in my life all the time. I find it at work in this congregation. People generously reaching out to help one another, to make things happen. They don't wait to see if someone's deserving. Let's see, I don't know. There's no waiting for that. There's no qualifying that. We don't do that before we offer a hug or a meal or just a listening ear. That is a kind of grace that we share with each other in ways small and large. It's what we acknowledge when we whisper, thank you, to the universe. Do you ever do that? You just thank you, just to the universe, because we feel grateful. What we thought would happen, what seemed so obvious and inevitable in the moment, didn't happen. Thank you. Or something better than we could have wished for happened. Thank you. Those are moments of grace. They are surprising gifts of goodness. To me, when I consider the concerns of reconciling privilege, of knowing how to help a loved one that doesn't want help, of trying to find how to help others, the more precise way, when I consider those struggles, the more precise way to understand grace is acknowledge what it extends to us. Because at its most elementary level, it's a reprieve. Grace is a reprieve. It's a total liberation from all the fetters of the human condition, as brief as it is. It serves as an ecstatic affirmation of life and beauty, as fleeting as it is. And once that reprieve is over, if we have allowed a little shift to happen, we will have the courage and the hope and maybe even a little of that transformation in order to pick up and carry on with a new orientation. Grace always leads us in the path of more hope, of more trust, of more love, because it is the acceptance that we are all imperfect. Hate to break the news to you. We are all imperfect. Imperfect human beings living in an imperfect society that rests on an imperfect universe. Grace accepts that there doesn't need to be any reward to us for our acceptance of the imperfections, our own and others. But grace requires that we make space for one another. Make space for one another amid the imperfection. You know, with Anne Lamott, I want to remember that we don't need complex, heavy, obscure, antiquated theology and doctrine to know that grace is simply the love that greets us on the way. It's the help you receive when you have no bright ideas left, when you are empty and you're desperate and you've discovered that your best thinking and your most charming charm have failed you. Grace is the light or the electricity or the juice or the breeze that takes you from that isolated place and puts you with others who are just as startled and embarrassed and eventually grateful as you to be there. We give thanks for moments of grace. They are unbidden, they are fleeting, perhaps transformative, trustworthy. Those times in our lives when love arrives to cast out fear and doubt, when it says, you're okay. You're okay. Because you know what? Amidst all the death and the destruction and the horror that pervades and often dominates our world, grace remains. You've heard, there but for the grace of God go I. Has anybody not heard that before? That was a variant of what John Bradford, a religious prisoner in the Tower of London, said when he saw a group of fellow prisoners being led out to their execution. There but for the grace of God go I. He felt that way, even though he too was eventually led to his execution. Grace can strike in a moment like a wave of light breaking into our darkness. It's as if a voice is saying, you don't need to do anything now. Perhaps later. You don't need to seek anything, perform anything, or even intend anything. Just accept the fact that you are acceptable. I think often of the Edward Everett Hale quote, I am only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something that I can do. Let go of the expectations that you need to do everything. Let go of the expectations you have of other people that they need to do everything. Because we cannot be fully human. None of us can be fully human and avoid those concerns of how to reconcile privilege, of how to help those we love who don't want it, not being sure how to help. We can't avoid that if we want to live fully, if we are fully human. We may find ourselves a bit like Lamont trying to make progress with life. Scooch, stall, catastrophic reversal, scooch, bog, scooch. We wish that grace was more of an abracadabra kind of thing and that delicate silver bells would ring to announce its arrival. But no, it's clog and slog and scooch on the floor, sometimes in silence or in darkness. But we can keep our eyes open to the possibility of grace, great and small. We can appreciate them when they appear. We can open to the shift within us, even in the simplest of experiences, such as the one shared by my colleague, Lynn Strauss. I experienced grace just this morning. Just this morning, as I fixed my breakfast. Up early in the cold dark of October, I poached 2 eggs, just the way I like them. I sliced a few strawberries, added a half bagel with apricot jam, and I put it all on my favorite old blue plate. Of course, I had a hot, rich cup of coffee with cream to go with it. Before eating, I thought about where my food had come from. I wondered if I should thank those chickens and the farmer. I was aware of my privilege as I set my plate on the table, and I gave thanks. All in all, a moment of grace. May it be so.
please join me in the words as we extinguish our chalice, those of you at home extinguishing yours as well. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world until we are together again. Now let's sing our hymn of celebration, number 131, Love Will Guide Us.
Love will guide us. Peace has tried us. Hope inside us will lead the way on the road from free to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us. Peace has tried us. Hope inside us will lead the way on the road from free to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
I bring you these words from Charles Howe. May we go forth from this place thankful for the life that sustains and renews us, and open to the grace that surrounds us and surprises us. May we go forth from this place with openness, with love as our guide. Shalom. Salam. Amen. Blessed be to each and all. Namaste.